And again, this is part 2. I believe it is June 18th or thereabouts, maybe June 17th. I'm not looking at a calendar at the moment or even on my phone. Anyway, this is Debbie with Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener, part 2 of the video, just a talk with us and going through the building of the trellises and things like that we are getting ready for the plants that are starting to get runners. Like this watermelon is starting to get some runners on it now, and pretty soon it will be blooming. You can see the little runners down there, little tendrils sticking out. And the cantaloupes, again, this is the Ball 2076. Really impressive growth. In fact, I was a little worried when I started seeing some yellowing on the first leaves, but they have went ahead and mostly fallen off, and plenty of new growth, and they're really getting bigger now and spreading. And I did put organic fertilizers on all of my plants just to try to get them boosted a little bit, because again, we are working against the season. We've got about 80 days left of really good temperatures before it starts cooling off a whole lot, especially in the night. So I did put some Job's Organic, as well as some Leafy Green, and vegetables from Burpee Organic, and I am considering going ahead and doing the 10-10-10, because it's like this. I try to grow as organic as possible. I try to use as little fertilizers as possible. I try to use no pesticides, which I don't use pesticides. I don't even use the organic pesticides. But when it comes to gardening and I am working against time and anything that can boost the harvest, to get a harvest in, then I will resort to the more tried and true fertilizers such as 10-10-10. I do have that, and I will use it if necessary. So far, I haven't seen that I've needed to use it yet. And I will try to stick with the organic fertilizers as much as possible until that point. And I never fertilize according to a chart, and I never follow the backs of the bag recommendations or anything like that. They recommend that when you are using fertilizers, you use it every couple of weeks and yada yada and so forth. And I will use fertilizers sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times in a season, and that will be it. So we are getting loads of growth without having to use fertilizer so far, and quite quickly. But sometimes these pots, the containers, will need a little extra boost because they run out of nutrients pretty quickly when they are in these containers. So you need a little bit to go back into the system and keep them going. So as you notice, though, we have watermelons that are beginning to have runners. All of them, in fact, are getting some runners on them. Cucumbers, the same thing. The cucumbers that I had set out before, that I had one pot that was kind of killed off by frost. The other pot I thought would not make it is actually making it. They have started putting on their 3rd, 4th, 5th leaves and really picking up. And all the little greenery that you see down in there, besides the cucumbers, are little seedlings of a purple pincushion flower that are coming up. So we will have a little bit of some undergrowth to go along with those cucumbers, and I'm going to leave it. If it starts to kind of take over, then I will pull it out, but for them right now it isn't. And the little purple pincushion flowers are quite small when they get to maturity anyway, so I'm not looking for them to push the cucumbers out or kill them off or anything like that. We have flowers going on our big gem peppers right now. So, and I think we've even got a little pepper in here, if I was looking correctly. Yes, we do. Right there is a little pepper starting on the big gem, and these are supposed to be really big jalapeno style peppers, so we will see how big they really get. These are the only hot peppers that I have, because in general I can tolerate spicy food, but my partner cannot, and my grandson does not like spicy food. So we kind of stick to the sweeter bell peppers and things like that. And as I was saying, some ingenuity that I had going on was I picked up these little trellises here, little arch trellises at Menards for $1.99, I believe it was, on clearance. They were typically $7.99, and I did pick those up. And what I've done is I've got some cucumbers that have not came up yet, but I just planted them a couple of days ago, so I'm looking for them to come up pretty shortly. And they will run up on this trellis, so I just put them over top of the pot. I did the same here for this one. And they're bigger than the pot, so I just basically set them, they're level on top, so they will run up with these. And right here's another set of cucumbers, and it did fit this pot because it is a square pot, and I went ahead and put that one in there. It's in there quite securely. And over here in the herb garden, which my container garden's on the south side of the entrance to our house, we've got all kinds of radishes that are coming up. I planted black Spanish radishes, as well as lady something, I forget the second part of the name, radishes and crimson giants, and those are all coming up. I also planted some colorful morning glories. I typically would not do that, but we will keep them from going to seed. They have a hard time going to seed in Wyoming anyway because it's so cold, so I will keep those from going to seed. If they do go to seed, I'll try to collect the seed, but I did go ahead and plant some, and I do think one of them has came up, and I'm not sure if it's going to be one of the ones that are colorful, because I also planted another separate variety that is a midnight dark blue, almost black, that my daughter wanted, so I went ahead and got that. Our mustard had went to seed, so I went ahead and got that out of here, and I'm going to be replanting some more mustard in here, a little bit thicker this time. We got some cucumbers that are starting in the middle of the herb garden, and I'll be trellising those pretty shortly. And this is where I also planted some loofahs and also some birdhouse gourds, and I did notice a couple of the birdhouse gourds have came up. You can kind of see them down there just now beginning to come up right there. And then we have some zinnias that have all came up, and those are going to work basically. And our rosemary did come up. It's really, really small right now, but it is coming up right in there and right here, so that is going on. And we got some more cucumbers and things planted in there that are kind of hard to see. You can see them right there. Salvia is still going strong. All of the bees and mason bees and honeybees and butterflies and everything are really attracted to those. We've got even the good news bees coming, if you've ever heard of that from the south. We call them good news bees. They're not really a bee, they're a fly, but they kind of look like bees. And I think I see one right now kind of flying around right there. If you can see that, they kind of flit around like a hummingbird. You can see it right in the middle of the frame. So a little interesting little fellas. Anyway, this is a long look of the container garden. So all of our pots through here, and this is only part of them because some of them we have moved into their permanent locations. So we've got all of those going on through here. And our corn is just growing by leaps and bounds. All of our zinnias that we planted first are definitely getting a lot bigger. And we have beans coming up right now. You can see some beans coming up. And those are the rattlesnake pole beans. And then I also have Kentucky Wonder in here. And we have some Royal Burgundy beans in the back. And I was surprised. I haven't grown those before. And I was surprised to see that the stems are actually purple. Very, very, very purple. And the veining is purple that is in the leaves. So they're really, really pretty. And we did have to go in, and there's some spots where some corn did not come up. So we filled in with some more corn, and that should be coming up pretty shortly because it is very warm in here now. This particular garden here gets warmer than the rest of the garden because it is where the sun hits first, except for this back section back here, which is shaded. Now the corn is coming up back here, even though it's shaded, but I'm not sure that it'll do anything or get to maturity. But this is the early sun glow hybrid corn that I grew the first season, and the one that I'm most happy with so far. I did the peaches and cream last season, and even though I had some good corn, I didn't have a whole lot of it because it's a lot bigger. The early sun glow hybrid is good sized ears but small corn. They only get about 4 feet tall before they start tasseling. That is perfect for us, and the ears are about 8 inches long. Perfect for us. Some of them will even get to 9 or 10 inches long, just depends on how well that particular stand of corn is doing. All of our potatoes, except for my grandson's row, which were the seeds that we had saved from last season, are doing fantastic. We're getting lots of growth on them. That's the Kennebec potatoes. All of them did not do the reds this year, just the Kennebec. The borage is blooming, or sometimes they call this star flower, I believe, but it is borage. Anyway, I had to pause that because my grandson had a question about monster trucks. Anyway, Tahitian squash is getting the 3rd set of leaves on now, and we've got 12 of those. They're getting pretty big, especially the ones in the front section that get the most light and heat. And we've got some more borage that just keeps coming up in the garden that I'm having to transplant out because otherwise it kind of takes the nutrients for the other things. And we did get a new pinwheel, I guess, or it's a cute thing with the tail. It looks like a goldfish, rainbow colored. Anyway, shallot's doing fantastic. And my grandson's garden is doing great. He's got blooms on his tomatoes, and his broccoli are actually getting pretty big now. And that is the borage that I had pulled out of the garden. I can't stand to kill it, so at least for the most part. So I take it out and I put it in these little pots and try to give it away. I've only managed to give away 1 so far, and out of 10. Tomatoes over here are doing fantastic. And when you run out of bamboo, you resort to regular sticks. And those worked perfectly fine, just a little bit bigger than I like. The peppers that I was talking about that were looking kind of bad before are actually doing great now. They did pull out of it. That was with the fertilizer that we used. So they really perked up. Our beans in the back, we've got some Royal Burgundy in the back section behind the tomatoes is coming up now. Tomatoes are looking fantastic, getting a lot bigger to the point that we are starting to think about getting their cages on there because we've got tomato cages to put over top of the stakes. I do staking and tomato cages both just to make sure because the wind can get pretty bad in Cheyenne, especially this year. All of my beans are up now, finally. So we had good germination, remember, on the front section in a couple of spots, and then on the back section in 1 spot, and then we had really spotty with the rest of them. So I've got top crop bush beans that I replaced some of the ones that did not come up in the bush bean section, which is the back row in front of our red curry squash. So this is the back row here of bush beans. This is the red curry squash through here, and we have our pole beans up here. These are just now starting to come up, but all of them are coming up. And I filled in with the rattlesnake pole beans in the back, as well as some more Japanese yard long here in the front, and some Kentucky Wonder on part of the back section because I ran out of rattlesnake pole beans. So we've got all of that. We've got some butternut squash here in the front section. You can see them here, 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 and here, and we will let those run up on the fencing that we have here in the front. And we've got some leeks that are transplanted out here, but they're really, really small yet, and it's hard to see them. I just finally had to just go ahead and put them outside because they were really spindly inside the house. So we'll see if they do anything. They actually got bigger pretty much as soon as I transplanted them out. So I've got high hopes for them. They did not just immediately die off because they were so spindly, but we'll see if they do anything. All of our onions doing fantastic. Our second set of onions that we planted are coming on. So that is great. They're getting some green tops on them. And I think we're going to have to go into a part 3 So this one's going to be a long video, everyone, and I apologize I have to break it up in parts, but that's just the way my phone does. It only does 15 minutes of the 1080p video, and then we have to go into another video. So here will be the part 3 next.